and welcome to Mr. Stitch Films podcast, Creepy Corner. I'm your host, Anthony M. Winson. Join me as we venture into the world of horror movies, explore chilling, creepy stories, unsettling urban legends, and share ghostly encounters that will send shivers down your spine. This week's co-host is the amazing Rob Lane.
Hey, I like the prefix of amazing.
And you work for which company, or own which company, should I say?
Oh, I have fingers in many pies. So a lot of people know me from the 80s video shop, Straight to Video, or the Straight to Video podcast. That's probably all people need to know, I think.
And how did we meet?
That is a good question. You can refresh me on that one. Do you remember?
I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking it was through Screen 22.
Right, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And I think maybe Amy put me in contact with you because when you were in Teenage Casket Company, you were looking to make a music video.
Right.
For You
That's
Only
interesting.
Love
I'd have
Me
to, yeah.
When You Hate Me.
Oh, we must have known each other before then.
No, I don't think so. And
Yeah.
then I made the music video and we kind of just kept in contact. And then obviously...
So was that before the Straight to Video one, which came to the studio and shot, like, really off the cuff? The Don't You Forget About Me?
It was before then, yeah. And then I just kept in contact through you doing Straight to Video at Screen 22 and then did music videos for...
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, it goes back. There's lots of history, actually. Lots of stuff went on. Yeah, it's all good.
Really did. That's going back now 10 years?
Well over 10 years now.
Yeah, it's got to be over 10 years.
It's got to be
now.
like 12.
Yeah.
About 12 years, I would imagine. Let's say that.
How time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, indeed, man. Indeed.
So, in today's episode, we will be venturing to the spine-chilling world of Wes Craven's 1984 classic, A Nightmare on Elm Street. So prepare yourself as we discuss the haunting tale of Freddy Krueger, the relentless dream stalker who turns the peaceful sleep of Elm Street's teenagers into a nightmarish fight for survival. We'll uncover the film's terrifying origins, its impact on the horror genre, and the psychological fears it taps into. So remember, whatever you do, don't fall asleep. So, and A Nightmare on Elm Street stars Heather Langenkamp, Johnny Depp's first film, Robert Englund, and John Saxon.
It's a stellar cast in this film.
It really is.
It is. Everybody is great in it.
It is. And do you know what's really weird that I didn't know until earlier today was the fact, because we weren't originally going to do A Nightmare on Elm Street, we were probably going to do The Fog.
Yep.
I said, A Nightmare on Elm Street, I think that's great for us too. A year ago today, I was at the HorrorCon and met Heather Langenkamp.
No way.
A year ago today.
That's nuts, man. It's
So-
weird how stuff like that works out. There's lots of...
Meant to have been.
Yeah.
So,
But 40 years.
40 years. I mean,
You weren't even thought of at that point, mate.
No, I wasn't.
Wow.
Do you remember the first time watching it?
I do. I know exactly where I was sat. I was at my grandma's, where I used to spend my weekends, and saw it on video, which would probably have been... I'm trying to think, because UK-US release schedule was totally different to what it is now.
Yeah.
It's like now films are released same weekend, same day.
Yeah.
I'll say it's out on video or it's out on streaming or rental pretty much, a month later or something like that these
is
days, if not
crazy.
at the same time. But back then, if a film, obviously the film was released, was it November 84 in America?
Something like that,
Something
yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
England didn't get it till 85 at least. And for it to come out on video, so, I mean, it might have been late 85, early 86 when it was released on video in the UK. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's quite shocking how long it took for films to come out in other parts of the world back in the day compared to now. Like you said, it could be in the cinema a month later. It's on streaming.
Yeah. The weirdest one, actually, A Nightmare on Elm Street connection, something I found out recently, as we'll probably discuss. I got big time into these films.
Same.
The first one I saw at the cinema was Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which I
okay.
saw in America in the summer of, let me get it wrong, summer of 88, which was a big deal for me because I get to see this before all my mates.
Yeah.
So summer of 88, I saw that. It didn't come out in the UK, I found out, at the cinema till May 1989.
Wow.
I mean, how many months is that?
So it came out when I was born.
Yeah?
Not making you feel old
That's
there.
crazy. But we finally got The Dream Master in May 1989.
Yeah.
A couple of months later, I went back to my dad and I saw part 5.
Really?
Yeah, because they were churning them out every summer.
Yeah, they were.
back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, the release schedules were insane. But yeah, a bit of a digress. But yeah, I remember sat at my grandma's.
That's an awesome grandma.
Oh, my grandma was great. I saw Evil Dead at my grandma's. everything. It was no big deal for kids to see those films back then. But,
No. How old would you have been at your grandma's then?
so I was born in 74, so I must have seen Evil Dead. It was before it was banned. So when was that? 81, 82, whenever it was banned?
Yeah,
So I'd have been like
roughly.
6, 7 when we saw that.
Yeah.
And then it just disappeared for
Yeah.
however many years. And but yeah, I can remember there was a buzz about Nightmare on Elm Street coming out. It was like, it was the horror film to see on video. And I remember going to my grandma's, which I used to do every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays. Oh, got this film, Nightmare on Elm Street. I was like, yes, this is the one. I remember saying, and it, yeah, obviously genuinely scared me I'd been like 11 at the time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I am so jealous. The funny thing is, I introduced my granddad to A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Like, my grandparents were not horror fans.
Okay.
Like, they didn't. And I was obsessed as a kid with A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I remember there was a family barbecue, and my grandparents came round, and I was like, have you ever seen this? And they're like, it's not my cup of tea. My mum was like, it's actually a good film. You should watch it. And I remember going round to my grandparents and making my granddad sit through it. My grandma was sitting in the kitchen the whole time. And I don't remember what his thoughts were. He was probably like, what is this trash?
What year was that then? That will make me feel old.
Oh, gosh. So, I mean, I was quite young, so I would have probably been about 5, so about 96, 97.
Nuts, man.
probably. When I first saw it, I was probably about 4 years old because I used to
Really?
watch them with my older brother.
Okay. What's the age difference?
So I was born 89. I think Craig was born 83.
Okay. That's a good difference.
Yeah, so I learned all my horror.
So you got in early throughout.
Oh, yeah.
So before you saw it, did you know the name Freddy Krueger? Had you seen images or anything like that? No.
No. I don't know how it would have officially come about because my parents just didn't really care in regards to us watching horror films. Like I mentioned, the Exorcist one, the only one was The Exorcist my dad said we weren't allowed to watch.
Yeah.
That was literally the only one I was not allowed to watch. But other than that, like, I was watching Freddy and Chucky, and I remember going to school one day in primary school in grade 1, and they were like, so what have you all been doing this weekend? And I went, I've been watching Freddy Krueger. And she was like, I'm sure you haven't.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I have. And she was like, no, you haven't. And I went home and told Mum. I was like, she didn't believe me. And she was like, don't tell them that, we'll be in trouble. I was like, sorry.
Amazing.
But I was obsessed with them.
Yeah.
Like, growing up, I was
in the
obsessed.
mid-90s, you was obsessed with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's interesting because well, depending when it was, you often talk about the time when horror was really out of favour. So the Elm Streets and stuff kind of crept into the early 90s. And then horror disappeared for a few years until Scream
Yeah.
came back and kind of gave it a bit of a kickstart with all that teen horror again. Then you had all The Ring and
Yeah. Well, it's crazy.
Saw.
Thinking back, it's weird because Wes Craven's New Nightmare came out in 94, I'm pretty sure. And I remember that coming out and being excited for
Right.
that. And I would have been 5. So I'm wondering if I was younger than I thought I was when I first saw them.
mate. So how did you hear about that? Because we're talking well pre-internet and stuff. Just
I think it was just in a
newspaper
magazine.
cuttings.
Yeah, I think it was just in a magazine.
Yeah.
My brother told me, because my brother, he read all the stuff on magazines and things like that, and I think he would have told me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he probably would have told me, and I would have been like, oh, when's this coming out, you know?
Yeah.
Really excited. And I still have now, do you remember Britannia catalogue that used to do VHS?
Yeah.
I still have the West Coast Nightmare poster that came with the VHS.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's locked away in my my keep safe sort of area.
Brilliant.
But it's got so many creases in it. But yeah, it's I remember I got it. Mum bought the VHS and she gave me the poster that it came with.
Mint.
Yeah. We were both very young and early introduction.
Yeah.
We had
absolutely.
very laid back families.
Oh yeah, my story, which I tell so many times, is I was allowed to watch anything but like heads being decapitated, people blowing up. But as soon as them boobs came on the screen, close your eyes. So I didn't see the shower scene to American Werewolf in London until I was probably, I don't know, about 10 years after I'd originally seen the film.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of the times that is the case though with America, with their MPAA system. Like, you can slaughter anything. As soon as you show some breasts, oh no.
The thing that used to blow my mind was being in America and they'd have like Friday the 13th movie marathons going through the day. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just bizarre.
Because in America, they have R-rated and anyone can go as long as you have an adult with you.
That's the only reason I got to see Nightmare on Elm Street 4, yeah.
Which is
It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It is.
It's cool for a kid, but it's a bit weird.
I mean, that's why they introduced 12A in the UK, wasn't it? I mean, but we've never had that. I mean, in the UK, we're obviously a lot more prudish in regards to that kind of stuff. But I remember in the early 2000s when they brought in 12A, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So when Wes Craven made A Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm sure you're aware, it was the film that brought New Line Cinema back from bankruptcy.
Absolutely, yeah. The house that Freddie built.
Yeah. And I think that is amazing. This small little independent film, technically not small budgeted really, I think it was 1.8 million its budget, but still brought a company back from bankruptcy that if it hadn't been for A Nightmare on Elm Street, we wouldn't have New Line Cinema today.
Mm-hmm. It's weird to think, I mean, because I still think of New Line, I don't think of it as this big juggernaut cinema.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it through all the changes. It's still New Line Cinema, this small.
If I see that logo of the clapperboard, coming onto the screen, I immediately get pulled back to being a kid.
Yeah. Well, it's not even that logo on the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, it's not. It's the Buzzy one, isn't it? Yeah, Buzzy. Neon.
Yeah, it's all like just all the lines and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, that is true. So, do you remember any scene that particularly stood out to you, like scared you as a kid watching?
There's lots of genuinely scary scenes in this, and one of the reasons why I think they're scary, and I even thought this when I was a kid, because they look a bit shit. That makes them look extra creepy.
Do you know what? In a way, I can agree with that. Yes.
First finest example is Freddy extending his arms in the alleyway. It looks rubbish.
Yeah.
But that's what genuinely makes it creepy.
Yeah, because it's not polished and it doesn't look real.
Yeah.
And
that'd all be CGI'd now, and your brain would, it looks, well, I don't know if it look real, but yeah, it just looked weird.
But it works because it's Dreamworld.
Yeah, and it's just the weirdness of it, and it's like when you see like those people who they're not zombies, but they walk funny and they're all twisted and distorted. It's not the norm.
Yeah.
So that's the first scene that like freaks you out.
Absolutely, I remember that scene freaking me out so much as a kid. Like really, really did, and even now I still think it looks so creepy.
Yeah, his head looks a bit weird as well.
Yeah.
And then it follows up with that. He does the arm thing, then he starts chasing Tina down the alleyway, and the way he runs is like bizarre.
Yes.
Just
almost
so stuff like that.
puppeteered.
Yeah. So that stuff like that is genuinely creepy. I'm trying to think what other bits scared me. There's Tina in the body bag.
Literally got that written down. Tina in the body bag. Freaked me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I remember as a kid, like always covering my eyes. Like, no, don't like that.
Especially where she's being dragged down the hallway and her legs lift up. She's being dragged by something, but you don't know what it is.
Yes. And then runs into the female Freddy woman. And just like when she turns around, she's like, no, running in the hallway. Oh, creepy. So creepy.
And one of the other things is prior to it, I think it's in one of the early opening scenes. Is it the sheep or the lamb which is just running down the corridor?
Yeah.
That's just like some weird kind of witchcrafty whatever.
Apparently it was meant to be Lamb to the Slaughter.
Ah, right. Okay, that makes sense.
I never knew this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it wasn't until recent. I think I was watching Never Sleep Again, the documentary.
Okay.
And they said something, it was meant to sort of prelude to like the kids of Lambs to Slaughter.
That totally makes sense now. Yeah.
But I do remember why is there a sheep?
Yeah.
Why is there a sheep? Why is this?
Yeah. Mint. Really, really good. But that's a good thing, which perhaps Wes Craven did again in Scream later, because I don't know if you feel the same, but it almost sets Tina up as being going to be the heroine.
I think as a kid, I wasn't tuned into heroines and all that kind of stuff, but I can agree with that. Yeah,
the attractive blonde. It's the first one you see.
Yeah,
you think she's going to be the main one, but Wes Craven. Sorry, guys, 40-year-old spoiler, but kills her off as the first person.
Yeah,
which he later did with Drew Barrymore in Scream.
Yeah,
which was even more genius, really, because she was like front and center on all the posters.
Yes, yeah, and she was a big name as well. So, but the thing with Tina's death, and I love it so much, is her death is genius, and I don't know if any other films had really been that innovative with the rotating room.
Brilliant, yeah.
It's so well done and thought out. I mean, I just want to shake the hand of the person that invented that room. I know that Amanda Weiss, who plays Tina, she said that she had a lot of vertigo making that scene, and I think she said at one point they shot a cut and she was stood on the ceiling, which was the floor, and she was like, Wes, I'm gonna pass out, and he popped his head up through like the window and was like, look at me, we're on the floor, Like, you're not
That
going to
must
pass
have been
out.
cool to do.
Oh, amazing. She
Yeah.
apparently was very worried to do it and
Yeah.
because she's worried about getting hurt. But genius. I mean, oh no, Fred Astaire did it first.
Right?
Yeah, there's a dance sequence that Fred Astaire did, and the room turns as he's dancing and basically
Okay.
dances on the walls and
Yeah,
ceiling and
yeah.
stuff. So I think Fred Astaire did it first, but kudos to the people that thought this is how we should do this because it works so
Oh, yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
And the guy, I can't remember what his name is, who plays Rod. It's Rod, isn't it?
Yeah, Nick Corey. Well, he's got two different names. His acting name in Hollywood was Nick Corey, but now he goes as Jesus Garcia.
Okay, yeah.
Rod Lane. No,
Yeah,
no
Rod
relation.
Lane. Yeah.
And I never picked.
Do you know what?
I never
Actually-
picked up on that until years later. So, that's
I've only
pretty
just-
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
But how about he was strapped to a chair?
Yeah.
So that obviously he won't move. Genius.
Yeah.
Absolute genius, that scene. It really is. And it's freaky because you don't see Freddy doing it.
No.
And I think that's what's so weird because obviously we're in the Wake world.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're seeing all this happening. And I think when you first come watching, you're like, what is this person? What is going on?
Sets the, if you want to call the Elm Street rules, even though there's bits even in this film, people say part 2 messes with the law and stuff. There's bits even in this film that if you want to get to the crux of it, it messes that up as well. But
Yeah.
it sets out the basic guidelines pretty early on. And
Yeah. It is honestly so good. And it wasn't until I was researching that I didn't know that Heather was the winner of 200 actresses to play Nancy. And she beat out Jennifer Grey, Demi Moore, and Courtney Cox.
no way, I did not know that.
I didn't know that until I was researching like some trivia facts.
Yeah.
I can't necessarily imagine Demi Moore, Courtney Cox, but Jennifer Grey, like, I can kind of see that.
Well, I mean, if you think of Courtney Cox, like Masters of the Universe, Courtney Cox.
I don't think I've ever seen her in.
Okay, yeah, she's in Masters of the Universe. So yeah, you'd probably get a different perception of her. She's just a young girl.
Yeah.
In that, so
I could possibly see Jennifer Grey in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
role, though, because I mean they've got the same kind of build, hair. They've both got the
Yeah.
curly, like strong curly hair.
Heather Langenkamp was. I was like, we're saying, just the casting in it is great, and yeah, she's perfect for that role because she is so innocent and
Yes.
so unassuming.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't want this to come across wrong, but I think Jennifer Grey might have been like too like sexy in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
And Heather is beautiful. Like she's beautiful, but she has a very innocent look
Proper
about
girl
her.
next door,
Yeah.
American suburban teen.
Yeah.
which is perfect.
Yeah, and she really does play that part amazing. Apparently, she said it's one of her favourite roles.
Yeah.
And even now, she's gunning for a revival. She's saying she wants to
Really?
play Heather again, like one last time, like as a legacy sequel. And I think it's getting traction at the minute. I don't know whether or not
Be
Robert Englund
interesting.
will come back
Yeah.
because he said he was done. 'Cause
Yeah, that is a weird one because a lot of people, the only person I want to see play Freddy is Robert Englund, but
if they did a new Elm Street with Heather Langenkamp, the only way to really do it would be Robert Englund.
yeah,
'Cause
if
it
you're going
wouldn't
to
make
bring,
sense.
if you're going to bring some of the legacy characters back, but I've had this discussion with a few people. I mean, Robert Englund's resurrected the role in stuff like the Goldbergs and things like that.
Yes, he did.
Kind of don't look right. It looks a bit weird.
I've not seen it, but I remember the promotional material for it. because
Whether
I-
it's the makeup's not, I don't know. It just don't.
I wonder if because his stipulation was like, I'm not sitting on a chair for hours on end for this. So they probably just had like a mask.
One of
made
those
up.
masks which look frigging great these days, yeah. Just pull them over your head. It's like, I've been sat in these chairs for all these years and now I can just get a mask that you just pull over your head and it looks exactly the same.
Well, he said it was like torture. Like by
Yeah.
the time he finished each shooting day, he just walked off set and ripped the
Mm-hmm.
man. And I think it said that they had people walking behind him, like grabbing the pieces of the prosthetics
Yeah.
because he was just throwing off, like, get this off me.
Yeah. On the spot, favourite Freddy makeup, which film?
Oh, gosh, dead air. Oh, my God.
Because they're all so different.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Either the first or Wes Craven's.
Wow. That's
Yeah, either the first
Interesting.
one or Wes Craven's, I think. Because
yeah, a lot of people like New Nightmare.
I love New
Yeah.
Nightmare. Like me and Lewis watched it. He'd never seen it. I've seen it so many times,
Mm-hmm.
and we watched it. I think it was last year. He wasn't overly keen. I think it's because it has a lot of, especially the ending, is very dream orientated
Yeah.
and can be a bit silly. But I love it. Like
No, I'm on about the makeup.
the makeup.
Yeah, yeah, as in films.
No, I don't think it. I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Do you have a favourite though throughout all the films, which is that's where Freddy looked the coolest?
I mean, badass. He looks badass in Wes Craven's with the trench coat, the leather trousers and boots. I mean, he looks badass in that. So this was one thing that I said to you that I didn't know until today, or not that I realised, was that it's the only film where he doesn't have stripes on his jumper's arms.
What, in Nightmare on Elm Street 1?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I knew that, yeah.
I never clocked it.
Yeah?
Never clocked that. And I was like, because it said apparently that they wanted him to wear a vest.
Okay.
And the production designer or something hated it. So they made him put the vest on over a red jumper.
Yeah.
Like a long sleeve jumper. Never clocked it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All
That's because I watched that
years.
film so many times. Friggin'.
All these years, and I've never clocked the fact that he doesn't have stripes on his sleeves. That is absolutely mental. I even remember being that obsessed with The Nightmare on Elm Street when I was little, which obviously I was about 5 or 6. My nan, I got her to knit me a Freddy jumper. Mm-hmm. I still have it to this day.
Nice.
My nan, I think, died not long after knitting it. I remember where she was living when she knitted it, and she moved to that place when she had cancer. But yeah, still have it to this day.
Now, has that got stripes on the sleeves or
It
not?
does.
It does have them, right, okay.
But the funny thing is, the sleeves are massive compared to the torso.
Oh, Nans were great for knitting stuff.
She'd never watched it, but my granddad, because he was a projectionist, apparently he did show some of the Nightmare films as a projectionist, but I don't think my nan ever actually watched them. But yeah, bless her, she actually knitted me one. So I was like, thank you.
Proper love, that is.
That is. You creepy little grandson. But I'll knit
you a serial killer's sweatshirt.
Why not? What would you say is your favourite makeup?
Part 2 is the nastiest.
Yes.
It looks the most evil. And then you got the thing with not really got the glove, he's just got the burnt hands with the knives coming out. So yeah, part 2 is the nastiest, but parts 3 and 4, which are both Kevin Yeager makeup, I think that's like the definitive Freddy in the way he looks. I think it just looks... Just way it looks cool.
I think if you were to put the images in front of me, I probably would change my answer.
Yeah.
I'm going off what I can visualize in my head from like those
3
films.
and 4 are quite similar. You can tell if you show me a picture now, say which films is from. I'd wager a bet I could tell which one's 3 and which one's 4. A lot of people beat down on part 5 makeup, saying it's starting to look a bit rubbery, which I agree with. But I like the way. Sorry to diverge into what happens later on in the series, but at the end of part 4, Freddy just literally gets ripped apart and just all the souls are out of him and he's back to square one. In part 5, he looks tired. He looks knackered. So I quite like that aspect.
I wonder if it might have been again that Robert didn't want to sit in the chair for
maybe.
too long.
Well, definitely in Freddy's Dead, I think it looks like he's just pulled a mask on because that is like really bad makeup. But
Yeah, I don't like 5 and 6. I think I did as a kid.
5's always worth revisiting, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, I loved them all. I couldn't pick a favourite. I loved them all, watched them all the time. As an adult watching them, I'm like, okay, you're really scraping the barrel.
Yeah, so I think once they got in the stride with Dream Warriors and hit on that formula, like, introduce the kids, they've all got a quirk, come up with a creative way of killing them. This formula works, away we go.
Yeah.
Part 4 just built on it. Part 5 carried it on.
He really became comedic, though, in 5, I feel. Like, you know, when he's, like, feeding herself to herself.
Yeah. But in a way that's still nasty, whereas in, like, Freddy's Dead, it just, I don't know, just a bit...
Really, well, they said Freddy's Dead was very pop culture.
Yeah.
Like, really, I mean, when he's on the broomstick, Roseanne's in it.
Mate, I'd checked out by that point.
That was the beginning.
I'd checked out before I even saw that film.
Oh, okay.
I got one of the movie magazines.
Right.
You know, you get them where, and
Yeah.
I thought, well, what have I been in? So it was like 91, was that? So I'd have been 16, 17.
Right.
And I got the movie magazine. I go, God, this looks terrible. I didn't even go to the cinema to see it.
I think it had moments, like, you know, when she goes and sees him beating his wife.
Yeah.
They said they had all these extra bits because Robert didn't want to be in makeup.
Okay.
So they were trying to think of ways to, like, have him in it without makeup on. Like I said, it had moments. And I think the 3D bit's fun for what it is, though it never really worked very well. But it is very, like they said, pop culture. 'Cause like I said, Roseanne's in it.
Alice Cooper's in there and stuff. But
And Johnny Depp makes an appearance. And they were like, this is the last one. Let's throw everything in.
But have you heard the pitch for the original pitch for the last one?
No. Or have
The
I?
Peter Jackson pitch.
This rings a bell. I can't remember, but I do
Obviously,
remember.
New Line signed up. I guess he was on New Line's books because he eventually went on to do Lord of the Rings. But Peter Jackson apparently wrote a script for whatever the final nightmare was going to be. And he had this cool idea. I think there was like, well, Dream Warriors work really well, so let's work on that. So apparently it was like a bunch of teenagers who learn about Freddy Krueger.
Right.
And it actually happened, and all the killings later on. So I don't know, I might get it wrong, but like they take sleeping pills to fall asleep and go in and just kick Freddy's ass.
Oh, okay.
I guess at some point it turns, but I thought that'd be a really cool idea.
Like the Dream Warriors was awesome.
Yeah.
Like that was just Patricia Arquette and
Dream Warriors for me was, again, I remember seeing the trailer for that film. That must have been in 87, 88.
Yeah.
And I was thinking earlier on today, other than maybe Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Street films was the first franchise, certainly in horror films, where I learnt of sequels and stuff like that. I remember seeing a poster for Freddy's Revenge, like, holy shit, that's a sequel to that horror film which I saw. I wonder what happens in that.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the trailer to Dream Warriors and saw, I can't remember his name, Will, the wizard.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow, this looks so cool. And that's when I like fully bought into the whole.
See, even that
Freddy
you could
thing.
argue is tongue in cheek, but it works.
Yeah, it works. It's just well shot. It's just the way it's shot. I think once you get into the 90s, a lot of films suffer from the time
Yeah.
of when they shot. Prime example, Rocky V.
Right.
I love the story to Rocky V. The execution is shit.
Oh, okay. I've never watched a Rocky film, so I couldn't honestly say, but I think it does help massively depending on who's driving that vehicle. And yeah, Dream Warriors shouldn't be as good as it is, and it just is. And I feel sorry for Patricia Arquette because apparently she had a really bad time with it. I don't know if you know that the first scene that they shot with her was when she's screaming in the hospital and they're trying to give her the injection.
Okay.
And it took them so long to get to her. She was so tired, she forgot all her lines, or having to spoon feed her lines to her on a board. And the director hated her from that moment and wouldn't give her the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
The fact that they had neglected her all day and left her to the last possible minute in the early hours of the morning. And yeah, he never gave her the benefit of the doubt for the rest of the shoot. And
Wow,
just treated
she's
her
great. She's a shining light in that film. She
is.
adds some real class to that film, I think. I don't know how well known she was before that. Obviously, her sister was pretty famous, but
Yeah, I don't think she was at all. And it's a shame because I think if she had had a better experience, we probably would have had her in the sequel because I'm a bit gutted that she was never in the sequel. And I think as a child, I never quite understood, like, is this the same person? But it's Tuesday night.
Tuesday night,
Yeah. And I mean, she got a raw deal. Like, everyone's like, you're not Patricia Arquette, you know, but
Well, it is a funny one. I mean, Tuesday night's cool, but yes, she's blonde, but she didn't really look like her. I didn't think.
No.
It was hard. It was a hard sell.
yeah.
And it almost felt like in the opening scenes of part 4, even the filmmakers knew that, and they needed to reinforce that this is that character, because I think one of her first lines, she's talking to herself and she says, "Stay calm, Kristen." Oh, okay, so that's Kristen from.
I mean, I love number 4.
It's my favorite.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you know, I think I saw the 4th one the most as a child because that ending.
Oh,
is,
mate.
you know, it's
Talk about
just,
special effects done incredibly well. That's like a
I don't know. It's just that film because it was who directed it? It was
Rennie Harlin.
That's it.
Yeah.
And apparently didn't even have a script, and most of it he didn't like understand because of his. Was he German?
Rennie
is
Harlin.
German.
Yeah, I used to know. Yeah, I think he might be. I can't remember. I think it was only like his second film. He'd done that film Prison
Yeah.
before then.
I think they said like he didn't speak English all that well.
It's like German, Swedish, Icelandic, one of
Yeah.
them. Pick one of them.
Yeah, and there wasn't a complete script, and he was writing pages on the day
Yeah.
of shooting and stuff like that. But that ending, I mean, do you know when? I just remember, like, my brother actually for Christmas one year got a studded belt,
Yeah.
because of that film. And when she's like, "Do you know what? Now's the time I'm going to kick his ass," you know, and she takes off all the pictures and then
it's
she
brilliant,
jumps
man.
through the mirror.
It's weird. The Nightmare on Elm Street 4, it looks so great. It looks like there's so much money thrown at it, but it still almost feels like a DIY film to me for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And like the acting, well, the acting's not great, but it's just a fun story with some great arcs in it. And it's just,
Especially from, is it her brother, the fighter?
Yeah.
His acting is questionable.
Rick, Andres Jones.
His acting in that is questionable. And I always remember feeling mortified for her friend who gets her face sucked.
Yeah.
I just remember always being so upset that, you know, because she was this cool, nerdy character. And that was the only film as a kid that I couldn't watch the bit where she turns into the beetle.
Right.
Like when he snaps her arms. I used to go and hide behind the sofa.
Again, so good. It's because it's so good.
Yeah.
That's why.
I hid behind the sofa and I used to be like, tell me when it's over. And then they'd be like, okay, it's done. And I just come back out and then continue watching.
Man, have you seen the making of Part 4?
Yes, yeah.
It's brilliant. Anyone's not seen it, it's on YouTube.
With the massive torso that fell over.
Yeah. And actually, one of the girls in that is Linnea Quigley from Return of the Living Dead, one of the Scream Queens. She's one of the...
I think she was meant to have been up for Nancy in the first film.
Maybe.
I'm sure I remember reading.
It would have been, a time frame would have been about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of gone on a massive detour from the first film.
We'll bring it in, reel it back in, mate. Reel it back in.
I was going to go into like the origins of the first film and how Wes Craven came up with the whole concept.
I mean, what a genius, man.
Yeah. I mean, do you know the story about how he came up with the concept of the film itself?
I know. Had he read some articles about people like dying in the sleep and stuff like that?
So he said there was like some South Asian people that had been subjected to some kind of was it war, I think, and they were waking up and they were just terrified to go to sleep. They would not go to sleep, and then there was go to sleep and wake up screaming and then die. And then he said he read like the nugget part of the article, which was like, you know, the really in-depth one was that this young lad moved to America with his parents, and again he was fighting to stay awake. He was taking sleeping pills. He had a coffee machine in his bedroom that he hid from his parents. That he just was terrified of sleep. And then one day he fell asleep watching TV and his parents carried him to his bedroom and was like, oh, you know, he's asleep now. And then they got into bed and then they heard him screaming. By the time they got to his room, he was dead. And the autopsy showed he didn't have heart failure or anything. He literally just died, and they still don't know why. And they called it the Asian death syndrome because they still, to this day, do not know why. And he said something awoke inside him, like fear.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is a concept that he needs to explore more of, which is just, I mean, that is terrifying. I mean, if I read that as a kid, I don't think I would want to sleep. I mean, Freddy was already scary enough as it was, but you were like, it's a film.
Yeah. But there's like some meat to this story. Yeah. That's why it's so strong, though, I guess, because he had such a strong basis to take it from. It's not just a cheap slasher film, which...
And he hadn't done a lot before that either. I mean, he'd done Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left and things like that. And
two totally different films.
Yeah. I mean, Hills Have Eyes is... it's not Hills Have Eyes, sorry. Last House on the Left. That is just a bit like a snuff film.
Yeah.
I remember, I mean, I love the remake of Hills Have Eyes and didn't mind the remake of Last House on the Left, but the original Wes Craven, there is something just nasty about that. And he said that he had a school bully called Fred Krueger. He named one of the people in Last House on the Left Krug.
All right, I didn't know that.
Because of this bully.
Yeah.
And then obviously that's where Freddy Krueger came from, was because of this bully that had bullied him in school. And I think he said they had like a paper round or something that they had to do together, and he was just very mean to him.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. And do you know about how he got the essence of Freddy as well?
Go on.
From the story of when he was a kid in his family's apartment. So he said he woke up in the middle of the night and he could hear something outside the building. And he said he was very young, like 7 years old. And he went to the window to like look out because he could hear this shuffling noise. And he saw this man just like drunk, like shuffling down the street. And he literally stopped, turned and stared up at the second floor window which Wes was in and just locked eyes. And Wes said that he was so terrified, he stepped back into the shadows. He said he must have counted like 200 or whatever and was like, but I've not heard him go. But he must be gone. No way can he still be there. Went back to the window and this guy was still there, staring intensely into his eyes.
I love it.
And then the guy then suddenly started to shuffle away, still looking back over his shoulder, and went round to the side door to the apartment building. And he said he like ran to his front door and heard the bottom door open. And he said at that point he like ran out round. His whole family woke them all up, like terrified. And his older brother, I think he said, went down with a baseball bat, but the guy had gone.
Nuts,
and the guy wore a cap, like a fedora cap, which is where Freddy got his from.
Where did he get the knives from? The glove? Any idea?
Yeah, he said that he wanted Freddy to have an iconic murder weapon,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't want something that was going to be bulky
Okay.
and cumbersome to carry around and things like that. And he said that he saw a cat extend its claws as a weapon
Yeah.
and was like, "That's genius." I think originally it was meant to be like fishing knives,
Okay.
and then changed into the knives that it became in the film.
Did you ever make a Freddy glove when you were growing up?
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Everybody did one kind.
Yeah, I think the first one, my dad made me a Freddy glove actually because I wanted one.
Wow. Grandma knits your sweater, Dad makes you a Freddy glove.
Oh yeah, it was all out of cardboard and
Yeah.
whatnot, and I remember it being a really awesome thing because I think the first time I was on holiday and my mum went out to go and buy some souvenirs and came back. Because I said, buy me a Freddy glove, not knowing you could buy one. She came back with the Fright glove. Do you remember the Fright glove?
Yeah.
And she came out with that, but my hands were too small. I couldn't wear it.
Oh, man, gutted.
So my dad made me the Freddy glove out of the box, out of the carton. He made me a few because obviously cardboard breaks down, and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I'm gutted that I don't actually own a Freddy glove now.
Okay.
Like, I don't actually own one because you can get buy a really good premium
Yeah,
one.
I had one made from a place in America, as we both are. Both of us are big on Halloween, so like, I thought, I want to do Freddy this year, so I want to do it good. So I like went into all the forums and like, you can get all the decent ones. Are they made by Necro or whatever? Which is supposed to be really good, but you hear some dodgy reviews of them. So there is companies that actually make them handmade in America and for decent prices as well. So I ordered one from America. I'm like, will this get through customs? He's like, yeah, it'll get through fine. Next thing, this friggin' badass Freddy glove comes through. Quite a contrast to the one I made when I was a kid, which was made out of just a cotton glove, and we actually sellotaped darts to it. We took pictures of ourselves with our old little 110 camera, like doing the Freddy poses.
Do you have these photos?
No, because I chickened out and shit myself like, if anyone finds these, I'm going to get arrested. So I threw them all away.
I would have loved to see
I know, I would have loved to have seen them as well. But our old would have been like, I don't know, 11, 12, something like that. So that's when you think like, if anyone sees these, they're going to lock me up.
That's awesome. Though. Like, I absolutely love that. I remember for Christmas, I would probably have been 3, 4, and I got a little Freddy figure. I don't know if you remember them, and he was like a knockoff Freddy. He had a white and red jumper. It was very small, like this.
That's Where's Wally?
It kind of, kind of. He had like a burnt face and a glove, and I can't remember. If I can find a picture of it, I'll put it on the video.
Okay, there is some photos knocking around of like cheap knockoff Freddy. It's got a name as well.
Oh yeah, I remember being terrified of it though.
What's it called, like Mr. Burntface or something like that?
It was called like Fright Friends or something like that. When I got that, I'd not long watched A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And with the puppet that comes to life.
Yeah.
I used to make my sister put it in her bedside drawer so that it wouldn't get me. So, great parenting there, I mean, I was terrified of this figure. I mean, loved it, terrified of it at night, though. Because I really genuinely thought it was going to come to life and get me. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I absolutely love about A Nightmare on Elm Street is Rob Shea and how he put so much trust in that film. Like, because he was headlining New Line at the time, and he... Basically, no one would take it on. No one would make this film. And he basically put in a lot of his own money and trusted Wes and the crew and was like, make me a good film. And he directed and wrote the marshmallow stair scene.
Right, no way.
Apparently, it's from a dream he had.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh. Depending on who you read up on about, has a different idea or recognition of what the stuff is. Like, it's so funny. It's like some people are like, oh, it's porridge. Other people are, oh, it's marshmallow. And it's just really funny that no one seems to have a definitive answer as to what
that's one of the worst
was.
special effects in the history of how they let that fly. Because
you could see that it was coming.
Yeah.
But I think it's so realistic for your dream.
Once she gets her feet in it, it looks great, but the fact that you can see where she's going to put her feet, it's like,
especially nowadays in 4K.
Yeah, but you could see that back in the day. It's like, I think, they've obviously had to cut a piece of the staircase away. Why not just put that on top?
Yeah.
To hide it a bit more.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Well, I do love that because in your dream, you do have things like that slow you down when you're trying to get away, and just how...
I've had dreams where I'm trying to scream and nothing comes out.
Yeah.
And all that. That's a horrible one.
The one I used to have a lot was running away and being so heavy that you fall
Yeah,
and you're just falling and you're trying to get up and you just fall in again and again. And literally that is your dream, just trying to get away, but you're falling all the time, falling over.
Nuts.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that is so good about the film is that it does tap into things you cannot control. Like your dream, you can't, well, depending on who you speak to, because some people are like, oh, you can control them, you know.
Yeah, once you start controlling them, though, you wake up.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. What's that called? I can't remember what it's called now. But dreams are terrifying. As an adult now, I love having nightmares because it's fuel for film, you know, writing and things like that. But I think that is what's so good.
Do you remember them, or do you have to write them down before you forget them the next day?
Sometimes I remember them if they really get me, like wake up and I'm like,
yeah.
I usually remember them. But sometimes I do wake up and if it's really like, I do write it down, like, that's a good idea.
Do you have recurring dreams?
I did as a child.
Yeah.
Oh, God, what was it now? I remember I did have one as a child that used to terrify me. And it was the most random nightmare, though. Like, it was always people shouting at me in, like, a big empty room.
Yeah.
Like, but it wasn't, like, shouting at me because they're angry. They were just talking, but they were shouting at me. And I remember as a child being terrified of it.
I used to have one, which I don't know the significance of it, but it almost used to be like the last dream I had each night. I guess it's because it woke me up, but it was like stood by the side of a lake.
Right.
And there's just a little drop of water in the lake and just the ripple coming out. It probably sounds bizarre, but that used to scare me. I don't know, just the ripple used to...
Did it get bigger? Like,
yeah. Not to the point of like washing over you, but I don't know, there's just a real point of sitting by the side of a lake and there's just a single drop.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing that always gets me with nightmares is some nightmares you have, you can wake up terrified. Mm-hmm. And then when you think about them in the, like, harsh light of day, and you go, what? That's not even scary.
Yeah. It's like when you're whittling about something all night and then you wake up the next day, oh, what was I worrying about?
I mean, I've had nightmares and been terrified to go back to sleep. And then in the daytime, thought about it or told Lewis about it and gone... I know this doesn't sound scary now. I realise that when I'm relaying this to you, it's not even scary.
Well,
but
last night,
I was terrified.
Yeah, mate.
I mean, even as an adult now, like if I have a particularly big one, like bad nightmare, I will kind of nudge Lewis and go, "You awake?"
Yeah. Give a cuddle for a bit. Yeah.
Like, I need to tell you something. So apparently it would take Robert Englund 3 hours. 3 hours per time to get into makeup.
I used to think it was more than that.
I think they might have got it down to 3 hours. I think to begin with, it might have been a lot more. But yeah, I know that he absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
Hated getting into the makeup and stuff.
I wonder how that was because they had different makeup artists for each film other than, I think 3 and 4 was both Kevin Yeager. But
yeah.
I don't know if Kevin Yeager did something on 2, people might be able to let us know. But yeah, I mean, having a different person put the makeup on each time and stuff like
Especially if you come to trust someone who's managed to get it down to a fine art.
Exactly,
Like,
well, I mean, I'll say, have you met Robert Englund before?
I haven't.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, I met him. Yeah, I met him once properly in Manchester and then briefly in Sheffield a few months later. But he's one of those people. I mean, it's ever so weird now. And when I always kick off about autographs and the cost of meeting somebody, which I think is ridiculous these days. It's just a whole different business model now. But back in my day, as they say, yeah, you could save up a couple of £100 and go to one of these conventions and meet 7 or 8 people, have your picture with them at the desk, and all of a sudden, like Robert Englund used to be £25. Some people will say I met him when he was £15.
Really?
And there'd be like 3 people queuing up at his desk.
What the hell?
Yeah, and first time I met him, it was £25, 3 people there. Had a totally different story for everybody. And then a year or so later, he was the big draw.
Right.
£85 is probably more. It's probably like £150 now.
Last time I saw him come up on a convention was a few years ago, and it was £130.
Yeah, and now you can't even get to see him because they get sold out before. You could have wrote to his fan club before to get his autograph for like £25, and he sent me 2.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? It's weird.
Well, that's the funny thing that you should mention that, because last year when I met Heather, I think it was £40 for a signature and £40 for a photo.
Yeah.
I think it was. This year in the same con, there was some YouTubers there. They were charging £50 a photo. I'm like, so Heather can charge 40, but you're charging 50 for a photo. I mean, your fans are going to pay it if they're really desperate to meet you or whatever. But I mean, I don't mind £40. It's not going to break the bank, you know, if you really want to meet them, they're an idol or whatever. But there has been some that I've seen that are ridiculously expensive. ridiculously.
It's crazy. But what my point was, yeah, the price of autographs are insane. And Robert Englund, I can't imagine how much he costs now. But I guess if you're willing to shell out that amount of money, he is a good one because you will have some genuine interaction with him.
Well, Heather was really nice.
Yes.
Have you met Heather?
Yeah, I met her at HorrorCon a few years ago. Not the last one, it had been the previous one. And yeah, she's super sweet. Crazy. I can't remember what my point was on. I think it was about putting makeup on and stuff like that, and Robert Englund being just an incredibly chatty person. So,
did you have one with his makeup on?
No, not done that. I have had a photo with him before, and just a regular. I get that having your picture with Freddie, but it's like that could be somebody else. And I know it's not. But
well, I thought this when last year at the Manchester Con, they had several actors there that played Michael Myers, and you could have a group photo with them in costume. I was like, but anyone can be under that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bit pointless. So I would prefer them not to be. But I suppose with Robert Englund, when he was in makeup, it wasn't just a mask. It was
you can tell it's him.
who it is. But it's like Jason.
But I think Robert Englund's famous. For me, Robert Englund's famous enough for it to be Robert Englund.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest myself, it would be fine to be just Robert Englund. And it's just I get a bit of a downer after the cons though when you meet these with Heather and stuff, because I just feel like I just want to sit down and talk to you, not fangirl to you. I just want to chat to you and be like, so what? It's
so nice when you do meet someone at a convention and they have got time and it's wicked. I've had both ends of the spectrum with that. Like some are really nice and some are really cold.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I mean, so far I've only been to 2 cons, so both times have been okay for me.
Yeah.
And I think it would spoil it so much if I was to meet someone and they were cold and just not really.
And it's not hard for these people.
No.
Us, the people meeting them, we're the ones in the position where we're nervous, don't know what to say. But they can really shut that down and make it so much easier by just saying, how's your day been? Who else have you met? And it instantly eases the mood.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you do meet a nice one, it just...
But it kind of ruins your experience watching, say, that film again. Like, I met them, it wasn't that great. Because you love that film because of them.
Yeah, quality, man.
Sweeping back round to A Nightmare on Elm Street, the ending with the booby traps.
Yeah. Oh, with the pre-ending.
Yeah. I love it. As a kid, I loved that. It was just so badass. I remember that the scene of them setting up the booby traps and all that kind of stuff. Just remember being
almost makes it not very horror related, almost like an adventure movie at that point.
Kind of, yeah. I think the only person in that film that I don't particularly care for is her mom. The actress is just very...
Is that because she's so good in that role, though, in a way?
Is she? She just seems so... I'm pretty. And that's kind of you'd imagine a soap opera, like a novella sort of thing.
It is a very soap opera-y kind of role. Ronnie Blakely plays it. Yeah, she's just like the drunk 80s mum.
Yeah, I mean, drunk, definitely.
Yeah. John Saxon, speaking of parents, what a presence on screen. He is somebody who I wish I did have his...
Has he passed now?
Yeah, fairly recently.
Yes, I do remember it.
And that's a signature that's missing on my Nightmare on Elm Street poster, which I would love to have got.
Yeah.
It's just such a great looking dude.
Yeah, and I love the fact that each one that Heather's been in, he has been in as well.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So it just goes to show that he had respect for the material as well. And I think that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, he was a veteran actor.
Yeah, I mean, I know him from Enter the Dragon and stuff like that. But he's one of those guys where once you saw him on screen, you thought, he just had some gravitas to whatever he's in. It's going to be good.
And he did play the role so well.
Yeah, brilliantly.
And in the third one as well.
Yeah, and he's kind of friendly in New Nightmare as well because he's playing himself.
Yes, yeah. And again, I love that film so much. I just remember the score as well.
Yeah.
The score in New Nightmare is just... It's criminal that it hasn't had its own vinyl release because I want it. You can only get it if you buy the box set.
Okay, yeah.
And the box set, I missed it when it first came out and now it's just hundreds. So I would love it. But... Yeah, just the score on it, and I just love the bit after Julie gets killed, and then Heather turns up, and she has to find Dylan. She goes to the freeway, and just that whole intense moment.
Oh, you'll make me want to rewatch it now, mate, and pay attention to that bit.
The music in it is so good. And apparently, what's his name? Played Dylan. Apparently, he's had the park in his back garden. He had it. like put in his back garden. Wes let him keep the
Oh,
rocket
wow.
and stuff.
I think he's the worst part of New Nightmare.
Oh, really? I don't mind him too much in it. Like, kid actors are hit and miss.
Yeah.
So you kind of, I feel
Well,
like
fair play to him. Did you see Dylan's New Nightmare, the fan film?
I haven't
Which they
yet,
did?
no.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Is
really-
it?
Yeah, it's really good.
I was a bit worried because obviously there's someone else playing Freddy.
No, it's fine.
Is it all right? Because I hated the remake.
Yeah, we can touch on that if you want.
I hated it. I mean, we've literally coming up to the hour mark now, but like the remake, I hated it with every fibre of my being.
Yeah, it's one which I always want to dive back into and have a quick watch. But for me, I think my feelings are the same as most people's feelings, where they just went a little bit too literal on what Freddy was. It's like, no, we don't need... Freddy was like a pop culture icon. He was a child killer, which is weird enough on its own.
Apparently, that he was meant to be a child molester.
Yeah, but they kind of
they
passed it away,
yeah.
didn't they? Yeah.
But I mean, Jackie O'Haley, I didn't think he
was
did
great.
I didn't think he did a bad job as Freddy.
great.
I think Maruma,
Can't remember anybody else.
who played Nancy.
Yeah.
She was just so miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they've been through what they've been through and stuff like that, but I think it was too teenage angsty.
Mm-hmm.
It was too like pre-Riverdale, like Twilight-y sort of thing. And the only person in it that I liked was her friend, was it Christy, who gets killed in the classroom.
Yeah.
That was the only character I even cared for. I liked the introduction of microsleeps, how you are that tired, you can sleep without
There's some
realising
great
it.
ideas. The fact that they almost made Freddy innocent was like, damn, that would have been good.
Yeah. And then obviously he did the whole 180 on it. But I just feel it fell so short. So bad. Like, I've tried to watch it 4 times.
Yeah.
And I've watched it through start to finish. I went to cinema to see it. And I've watched it through start to finish 4 times. And each time I go, why have I put myself through that again? Because I'm not one to hate on remakes.
No. Oh, I'm open to any remake.
Yeah.
But
I like a lot of remakes. But A Nightmare on Elm Street and The Fog remake are the 2 worst remakes to have ever been made.
go on then, quickly, the ending of the original. Can we just face facts? It's a shit ending.
It is. The dummy.
People tried to like, oh, well, it's because is it a dream? Is it real? Are people coming back to life? What's the thought process behind it? No, it's just a shit tag on to try and get a sequel.
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, it doesn't particularly make sense.
No, it makes no sense because it's just a random tag on that.
You defeat Freddy, yeah, fair play.
Yeah.
You know, you've done that. You've defeated him. You know, you've taken back your essence. How does that bring back dead people?
Yeah.
You know,
But it almost, in its fairness, I'm rewatching it recently. The first time you see the car in the original, it has got that hazy kind of feel to it. So it's almost like a continuation. It's hazy at the end. I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit of a dodgy ending.
yeah, it is. And I just like the dummy through the door as well.
Yeah.
It's,
What was they thinking?
yeah. But the funny thing is with,
But again, that's almost so weird. It's a bit freaky. It's a bit, that's a bit unsettling. It's so weird.
what, the dummy?
Yeah, it's a bit,
Yeah.
it's so
But
shit.
The thing that I love as well is the original where, do you know where Freddy pushes through the wall? And when Nancy's in bed and kind of pushes over.
Yeah.
How good that looks compared to the remake. 'Cause it
Right.
was CGI.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
Awful CGI. Because
Yeah.
they do it so in your face, like it's
Mm-hmm.
Freddy, right? Rather than this weird shape pushing through
it's
the
like
wall.
in the original, I'm like, his fingers are going to come through at any minute. It's going to split because it's there. It's happening.
Yeah.
Whereas on the remake from where it's like turning. And,
Yeah. Full look at him, you know.
Give it over, man.
Yeah, big time. It doesn't. No, I hate it so bad. I hate it so bad. It's an awful film. It really is. But I mean, I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface of this franchise, and we are over an hour now. But still, I mean, I think we took a few detours on stuff,
fine.
but it's all Nightmare
all Freddy related.
It was all Freddy related. It was, but I just feel like we haven't scratched the surface of this franchise. I mean, how do you feel about A Nightmare on Elm Street 2?
Love it.
The fact that it's a male heroine at the end.
I mean, you can do a whole podcast episode on Nightmare on Elm Street 2 on all like the story and the subplots and subcontexts and all that kind of thing. I thought it's kind of cool that it was a guy in the main role. I like that.
I think it's got to be like one of the only mainstream horror sequels or films that has a final boy.
Yeah. But again, going back to what I said earlier, it was like it was one of my first awarenesses of a horror sequel, so I had no concept of the
Well, I suppose back in the day you wouldn't really, because Final Girls and Final Boys wasn't a pop culture thing like it is today. It makes me laugh though when you hear interviews with the guy. What was the guy's name in the film?
Mark Patton.
Yeah, but what was his name in the film?
Oh, Jesse.
Jesse, thank you. And how even now he's like, yeah, we knew what we were doing. I'm like, did you though? Did you though? Like, I mean, it's so blatant in today's eyes.
Oh my God, I never knew. Growing
up, I didn't really.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't really cross my mind. But then as an adult watching it, you're like, this is a very gay film.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a gay club, the coach and all the spandex and leather being whipped to death.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's such a great thing to just dive into, because once you realize, click onto all that, it's...
And Jesse I remember reading about or hearing about, and I think it was a New Nightmare documentary or whatever it was, just how dissecting his sexuality through the film is hilarious, and how people will go into that so deeply, like to really kind of, and I would love to know from the director, like, did you know what you were doing? Were you doing this? Was this purposeful or was it accidental?
In a way, it's almost a very clever film.
But does it make sense when Freddy comes into the real world?
This is where I'm going to go off on a tangent. If you go another 10, 15 minutes, I will totally go into it.
I mean, I suppose in a way he's kind of, I don't know, pulling himself into our world, because is that after he comes out of Jesse?
Yeah.
Breaks out of him?
Well, going back to people who argue about the Freddy lore and things like that, there's things in part one which aren't quite right, where Johnny Depp's character gets killed, pulled into the bed. His mum comes in, the blood's all gushing. How's that happening? That's not real life, if you like.
Yeah.
So my take on part two, I am justifying it in my own head, because it does really twist the whole Freddy thing. But my take on it is, whenever you see Freddy in real life, that's actually Jesse. The people are seeing Jesse. Anytime Freddy is in real life, that's through Jesse's eyes.
Okay.
He feels like he's possessed. That's his way of justifying it. So Freddy's never in real life.
I like that.
Yeah, that's the way
I've never thought of it that way, but that would have been quite interesting if they'd even done just one shot of like passing a mirror or something.
There you go. Yeah, that'd have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is there a scene where he passes a mirror? There's a scene where he passes a mirror and he is Freddy in there.
Oh, gosh.
I think there is a scene in there.
It's been so long since I've seen it. I know there's a scene where he's against a mirror when Freddy's coming out, when he's trying to get out the room.
So the transformation scene where he bursts out of his body, that never really happens. That's just how Jesse's feeling that Freddy's totally taking over him at that point.
Yeah.
That's the way I justify it, because I love that film.
Do you know, I haven't seen a Nightmare on Elm Street 2 in a very, very, very long time. I feel like, I think Lewis even said not long ago, like, we should watch some of these films, because he's not a massive Nightmare fan, but I would like to revisit and kind of go one after the other. But
and a marathon.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, love 3, love 4, love Wes Craven.
Revisit 5 with fresh eyes as a back-to-back to 4. I think it's a pretty cool film.
Okay. So on that, we've slightly gone over our time here. You know, we've overstayed our welcome slightly. So I think we'll probably just leave it at there and call an end to this episode.
Loved it, mate. Thank you.
So everyone, sound off. Let us know if you enjoyed this episode and what you'd like possibly for us to discuss next. And a massive thank you to you, Rob, for taking the time and coming on.
Appreciate you asking me, man. Anytime you want to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, I am there.
Yeah, let us know if you want to hear more about the sequels, in-depth look at behind the scenes, what happened, more Freddy lore. Because I feel like there's a lot more to talk about. And even just one dedicated I'd love on Wes Craven's New Nightmare, in all fairness. I will literally fight anyone to talk about that sequel. So yeah, thanks again for listening. And until next time, stay creepy. Thank you very much. Bye.